Welcome everybody to our storytelling get-together here at the Herodian Hotel in Athens, Greece. I'm very pleased to have with us today Evi Gerokosta, who works at the National Book Center of Greece. She runs educational programs there. She's the head of the educational programs. She has a background in French literature and translation. She's an author and, as you will discover, a really wonderful storyteller. This get-together is for my online storytelling class and also for the Exam in Life program. We're very pleased to be able to present it to both audiences of students and anyone who happens to walk in and join us right now. This conversation is really about telling in Greek, which of course is of great interest to those of us who don't speak the language and really understand the culture. You know, every language has its génie, its particular spirit. What is it that you would say characterizes Greek as a storytelling language?
I would say that Greek language is a really elegant and melodic language. It is characterized mostly by its clarity and also by the variety of the words and expressions. I mean, when we want to describe someone or somebody, we can do it in many different ways. And all these characteristics of the language give a really interesting aspect on storytelling. I mean, also if we take in mind all these different dialects and pronunciations that exist in Greek, we can see that when we tell Greek stories, every person of the audience can find his past, his roots, his memories, and this, of course, depends on which place he comes from. So I believe these are the most important characteristics: clarity and variety.
Lately, as part of the Exam in Life program, I've really been immersed in these wonderful stories of the heroes and gods of classical Greece, as have many of us here. So I'm really pleased that you are going to tell us a story in Greek. Can you please introduce your story, kind of set it up for us, and then tell it and talk about your telling?
Of course. So I chose to tell you a story from Greek mythology. It's the story of the god Apollo and the nymph Daphne, who was his first love. Of course, she never loved him, and she only wanted to get away from him. He tried to chase her, but finally she begged her father, who was the river Pinios, to do something to save her. So her father transformed her in the famous plant laurel, yes? And the god, he may lost his love, but he recognized her as his most important plant. And later I will tell you which version I have chosen to tell you. So maybe we could tell the story. Σαν τους ανθρώπους, έτσι και οι θεοί τυχαίνει να αγαπήσουν στην αθάνατη ζωή τους. Κι είναι οι αγάπες τους λογιών, γελαστές και λυπημένες, κουρασμένες, τεμπέλικες, γλυκές και γλυκόπικρες. Κάποιες τις θυμούνται, κάποιες τις αφήνουν πίσω τους. Όμως την πρώτη του αγάπη ποτέ κανείς δεν την ξεχνά. Η πρώτη αγάπη είναι πάντα η πρώτη. Και η πρώτη αγάπη του θεού Απόλλωνα ήταν η Δάφνη, κόρη του ποταμού Ποινιού. Ο Απόλλωνας δεν είχε αγαπήσει ποτέ του. Για την ακρίβεια δεν ήξερε τι ήταν αγάπη. Μα ούτε τον ενδιέφερε να μάθει. Περνούσε όλη τη μέρα στο δάσος, κυνηγούσε, ήταν άπιαστο στο σημάδι και στο τρέξιμο και όλη η μέρα σιγοτραγουδούσε μελωδίες. Του άρεσε το φως, ο κόσμος και αυτό ήταν όλο. Μέχρι τη μέρα που συνάντησε σε ένα ξέφωτο το μικρό γιο της Αφροδίτης, τον Έρωτα. Τον είδε έτσι μικρό να παίζει με το τόξο και τα βέλη του και γέλασε περιπεκτικά. «Μικρέ, δεν βρίσκεις καλύτερα κανένα άλλο όπλο, αφού εγώ στο σημάδι θα είμαι πάντα πρώτος». Ο μικρός Έρωτας γέλασε. Μπορεί τα δικά σου βέλη να βρίσκουν πάντα το στόχο, όμως τα δικά μου θα βρουν εσένα. Και διάλεξε από τη φαρέτρα του 2 βέλη. Το ένα ήταν χρυσό, με μύτη διαμαντένια, από αυτά που φέρνουν αγάπη στην καρδιά. Το άλλο ήταν σιδερένιο με μύτη μολυβένια, από αυτά που διώχνουν την αγάπη. Με το χρυσό βέλος κάρφωσε κατάστηθα τον Απόλλωνα. Με το σιδερένιο σημάδεψε τη Δάφνη, την κόρη του ποταμού. Μόλις ένιωσε ο Απόλλωνας το βέλος πάνω του, σαν να χάσε τον κόσμο. Δεν πρόλαβε να ανοιγοκλείσει τα μάτια του και ένιωσε πως το μόνο που ήθελε στη ζωή του ήταν να αγκαλιάσει το κορίτσι, να το κάνει δικό του. Το μόνο που ήθελε να βλέπει είναι του κοριτσιού η ομορφιά. Η Δάφνη πάλι ούτε που ήθελε να ακούσει για αγάπη. Το μόνο που ήθελε ήταν να ξεφύγει από το Θεό. Και αυτός άρχισε να την κυνηγά. Και αυτή άρχισε να τρέχει. Και όσο έτρεχε εκείνη, τόσο πιο γρήγορα έτρεχε και αυτός. Έτσι λοιπόν, μπρος το κορίτσι, πίσω ο Θεός, έκαναν το γύρο του κόσμου 1 και 2 και 3 φορές. Ο Απόλλωνας είχε στα πόδια του φτερά, φτερά που δίνει ο έρωτας, μα και η Δάφνη είχε φτερά στα πόδια της, φτερά που δίνει ο φόβος. Τρέχει, τρέχει και κάποια στιγμή δεν αντέχει. Νομίζει πως θα πέσει χάμολη πόθυμη και πως η αγάπη του Θεού θα πέσει πάνω της. Δεν άντεξε και φώναξε τον πατέρα της. «Πατέρα ποινιέ, κάνε κάτι, άνοιξε τη γη και κρύψε με». Και τότε έγινε κάτι παράξενο. Το σώμα της το ένιωσε να μουδιάζει. Μια λεπτή φλούδα κάλυψε όλο το κορμί της. Τα χέρια της έγιναν κλαδιά. Τα πλούσια μαλλιά της πυκνή φιλοσιά. Τα χαρακτηριστικά του προσώπου της άρχισαν να χάνονται, μέχρι που εξαφανίστηκαν τελείως. Όταν πια ο Απόλλωνας είχε φτάσει κοντά της, είχε γίνει δέντρο. Ο Απόλλωνας αγκάλιασε τον κορμό, χάιδεψε τα κλαδιά, φίλησε τα φύλλα. Και αφού πια αγάπη δεν μπορούσε να έχει από τη Δάφνη, την κράτησε έτσι βαθιά μέσα του, να τη θυμάται. Ένα λιγερό, δροσερό και καταπράσινο δέντρο. Και εδώ τελειώνει η ιστορία. So I chose this version because it was really, the words and the expressions were really chosen. I mean, the way it's written, it's quite simple, but strong at the same time. And I believe this is the way we should tell those myths. And it's a bit different if we compare them to the Greek folk tales. The language of the myths is less amusing, we could say. It's more clear, more intense, so I believe this is the way we should tell them, a bit more quietly than the Greek folk tales.
You think that modern audiences connect better with that kind of a telling?
I believe so, because it's the new versions of the myth are quite laconic, and I believe that it's better this way and the audience prefers it.
Because some of the students have a first language other than English,
Yes.
and they're really interested in telling in their languages, either personal stories or traditional stories. I was wondering if you could comment on how your style changes when you tell in different languages.
The truth is that I always prefer to tell stories in my own language, because I believe that when we tell stories in another language, even if we know it quite well, we lose some of the spontaneity that we have as storytellers. So our own language helps our real character to emerge. Of course, I have tried and I have told stories mostly in French, and what I have understood is that I need much more preparation, and I'm always so scared to tell stories in another language. So I strongly believe that storytellers should tell stories in their own language, and even if the audience does not understand the language, because sometimes it's really charming to listen to a language even if you ignore it. And also the symbols of the tales are the same in all languages. So sometimes we can understand some things of the story if we understand the symbols. So when I meet some foreign audience, what I'm trying to do is, of course, to tell stories in Greek, but before that, I usually give a small resume of the stories told, so the audience can follow in a more pleasant way and easily. And this has happened to me 2 times, because 3 years ago I had to tell stories in Greek in China. So it was a bit bizarre, because in China they also have different body language. So I was really scared to do it. And I decided to prepare small texts in English or French so they could read a bit. And it was impressive because I had, 100 Chinese people listening to the stories. And after I finished, they came and they said, "Oh, this story should be about this." And they had understood some things, not the whole story, of course. And the second time was in Belgrade 2 years ago, which was okay. It was easier because we have the same body language. But I think all audiences are charmed by the language they listen, even if they don't understand it really well. I don't know if someone else wants to ask something.
Could you tell us if you visit the schools as part of your work with the National Book Center?
As a person who works at the National Book Center, I don't visit schools as author. Storytelling is my other life. So as a storyteller, I visit schools really often, bookstores, libraries, but also small theaters, bars for the adults. It's really common in Athens the last 2 years to do storytelling in bars, and it's really interesting. But also I do storytelling very often in open places, especially in summer, in medieval castles, in deserted villages, or on the beach, and everywhere where there is someone who wants to listen stories.
Do you memorize your stories word for word, or do you ad-lib a bit?
No, not really. I never memorize. There are other storytellers who choose to do this, but I couldn't do this. I just read the story, I feel it, I listen it, and then I dream about it for quite a lot of time. And I always wait to be ready to tell it. Because I remember one story some years ago, a story from Crete. I really loved it when I read it. I felt it was me, really. But the first time I tried to tell it to myself, I started crying. And every time I was trying to do this, I felt the same thing. So I managed to tell it, 2.5 years later. So I think that every story needs its own time and to do its own circle.
Well then, please everyone give Evi a round of applause for that.
Thank you so much. I would like to hear your own stories, but